Ven is a digital currency. And the reality is that 98% of all currency is actually digital because only about 2% of the money that we use in our economy sits in our wallets or our pockets. But Ven is a different kind of currency, and it's not new, but it's certainly evolving. So the thing I'd like to get across to you today is that there's definitely a revolution underway. A lot of people are very unhappy with the financial system at large, whether it's banks or the way that our economies are laden with debt. And even some people are upset about the way that we actually manufacture money as a society. So we spend a lot of time looking at the idea of money because we run a currency. Now the reason we run a currency is that we started with a social network. I work for Hub Culture. It's a social network that began back in 2002, well before most social networks started. And we were focused around not so much building millions and millions of users online, but creating a global community who saw themselves as effectively post-national and giving them places to go and things to do. And so we would go and do a big event in Venice and everybody would come in. Or we would go and do something in Rio and people would fly in. And trying to sell tickets to people in 120 countries was a nightmare. And I'm not saying that I'm lazy, but we really needed a single currency for all those ticket sales around the world. So that was the genesis of developing the currency. So we launched it in 2007, and it sort of sat there because we didn't really know how it would work compared to existing currencies. We just knew that we would build it, and then eventually set an exchange rate, so 10 units, 10 Ven to $1, and then to start to price our inventory online priced in Ven. So that grew and evolved, and over time we evolved that model. So we moved away from just being linked to the dollar, and in 2009 we became the first virtual currency to work off a basket. So that means that instead of just the dollar, there were lots of things that became part of the Ven. So euros, pounds, yen, but then we thought, why should we stop there? Gold, silver, eventually we added oil. And finally, the sort of cherry on the cake was carbon. So the carbon markets are growing very rapidly. They've been going down the last couple of years because of the economy. But from an environmental standpoint, carbon is the best hope we have of pricing what we call externalities, which are things that are difficult to price and generally linked to the environment. So Ven became the world's first green currency. Every time you use Ven, you can email it to someone, you can shop with it. You're actually having a carbon offset attached to your transaction. So we were really using Ven very much for ourselves. We started opening locations. We've done 24 hubs now around the world. We just did a beach house in Rio last month, and a week before we opened, we were actually pouring cement on the floors to get the floors done. We're opening in Doha in December. Most of these are very short-term hubs. They come for a short period of time, and they attract people. They do things there, they work, they incubate, and then they go away. We have a couple of permanent ones in London and Beijing. But what we discovered is that a hub and a currency together create communities and that people can do new things. But what we accidentally discovered was that this revolution that's happening with money is way more interesting than even what we've been doing with the hubs. So SWIFT is the group that make all the transactions when you make a bank payment to someone in another country. And their head of innovation was telling me a few weeks ago that by 2017, bot swarms will control finance. And I'm like, what's a bot swarm? And he's like, well, in high frequency trading in the financial markets, so Wall Street and here in London, all the banks now use algorithms and bots that predict the movement of currencies, but not just currencies, all assets, whether we're talking about stocks or equities or commodities. And these bots are becoming so fast and so not intelligent because they're little bots, but swarms of bots that are connected together are becoming so intelligent that it's becoming impossible to make a profit trading in the financial markets. Now, most of Wall Street actually makes their money trading in the financial markets. I was with somebody from Kite Group, which trades well over $1 billion a day. And they told me that just in the last 6 months, high-frequency trading markets have fallen to basically zero. It's almost impossible to make money finding margin or arbitrage in the markets anymore because the internet and bots are so fast and so intelligent that it's almost impossible. It's really just about who has the faster bot. And it's fallen from a very small amount of time, like, I don't know, a quarter of a second, down to a nanosecond to look for those margins. So on the other side, we have all these people who are upset about things, and they're saying, well, what if there's a different way to look at money? And what we see happening is, aside from the trading side of money, a new type of decentralization. So how many of you have heard of Bitcoin? So a lot of you. So 6 months ago, when I asked a group of people that, we didn't really have anybody who knew. And I first found out about Bitcoin in 2009, and it took me really a year to even understand it. And then it took me a while longer to figure out how Ven and Bitcoin were different and what they meant for the world. They both have advantages and disadvantages, but they're very, very different things. But they're really two different views of how currency can evolve. And I can guarantee you that if I can build a currency, and the people who are all building Bitcoin can build currency, there are soon going to be lots and lots of currencies. So there's already your British Airways miles and your Amex points, your Facebook credits, which have recently gone away, but you have Zynga points. All across the world, people are building point systems. The key for a point system to become like a currency is the ability to exchange it. So with Bitcoin, it's decentralized and it's anonymous, and you can send it like cash. With Ven, it sits in an account, and you can actually see the transaction and track the transaction no matter where it goes. Both of them are highly efficient. If you ever try to send $1 to San Francisco, you're going to spend probably close to $10 trying to do that. If you do it by PayPal, you'll spend at least 3 to 4%. With both of these currencies, you will spend nothing. So the efficiency of transaction is very, very stable. So I would sort of ask you to think about, if we want to fix finance at large, all the problems and the issues that happen with finance, we need to think about disrupting money itself. So with that in mind, we're announcing today some really interesting things. In Greece, this is Paul Mylonas, the chief economist, National Bank of Greece, the most important and largest bank in Greece. They were on a Greek roadshow last week, and he told me that they've completely shut down lending in Greece. Like, no matter how much money you have or how much money you need, if you want to go and get a loan from a bank in Greece today, it's very, very difficult to do so. It's almost impossible. So we're trying to think about how things like Ven can change that. Because banking is not a public service. It's a company. They want to make a profit. They have an obligation to maybe serve the community in some way, but their first obligation is to their shareholders. But it is a service to the public. And if the people can't get access to the things that they need, maybe it's time that we need to start thinking about different ways to deliver those things. So I'm really happy to tell you guys today, for the first time, we're launching Ven Funds. So these are the world's first funds in virtual currency. And we've developed them with some third-party partners. So Swiss Asset, which is a Swiss-based investment group, and Braz, which is one of the largest microfinance institutions in the Netherlands, are now both working with us to create Ven-denominated funds that will collect capital and then deploy that into microfinance initiatives. Now, the person at the end of the day will still get cash, but we hope that eventually we'll be able to do that with Ven. And if you see up here, the Greece Liquidity Fund is designed to do exactly that. So as that fund starts to collect people investing into that fund, that Ven will then be loaned to people and applicants in Greece. Some of these have fixed exchange rates as high as 8%. Others are designed toward the environment. So if you invest into a forest fund or an energy fund, the money that's going into that can help focus on startups and other initiatives. And the way that we do it and manage the returns back to the investors is a little bit complicated, but it really just comes down to using the power of the internet to collect those people into groups and then to share the returns back with everybody else. So the world's first virtual currency funds, hopefully a way to help places like Greece in a different kind of way, and probably the first of a lot of different types of currencies coming down the pipe.